What happened at Silverstone was not just another upgrade weekend. It was a complete shift in control inside Ferrari, and Lewis Hamilton was at the center of it. After finishing P5 in Austria, Hamilton didn't celebrate, and he didn't complain. He simply said 6 words, "Now we know what's under us." To most people, it sounded like a basic observation, but those close to the team knew better. That was a coded message. It meant the test Ferrari ran with the new floor in Austria had confirmed something deeper. Ferrari had finally built a car that listened to Lewis Hamilton, not just responded to him, but bent itself around his way of driving. That floor wasn't just a tweak. It was the first real sign that Ferrari's direction was changing, and not slowly, quickly, directly, toward Hamilton. The floor upgrade wasn't announced with much hype. Ferrari played it off as just another step in development. But that's not what the data showed. The telemetry after Austria revealed something shocking. Lewis had found grip and flow in corners where Charles Leclerc struggled. The delta in turn 3 and 6 was significant. Leclerc was bottoming out, braking early. Hamilton, meanwhile, was rotating the car cleanly, as if it was molded to his style. And that's because it was. Sources suggest that this new flow didn't come from Ferrari's usual design channels in Maranello. It came from a separate development group, engineers who had worked with Hamilton before, who understood what he needed. It wasn't just a technical evolution, it was a political one. During the Austrian Grand Prix, there was a moment on the team radio that didn't make the TV broadcast, but sent shockwaves through the paddock. Hamilton disagreed with the 2-stop strategy. His voice stayed calm, but the message was sharp. "If I stay out, I can make this work. Trust me." But that trust wasn't returned. Ferrari insisted on boxing him, and when they did, Hamilton didn't argue anymore. He went silent. That silence said everything. He wasn't just racing, he was testing them. Ferrari thought they were running a setup experiment, but Hamilton was the one gathering the data that told him what this car could do, how far it could stretch, and how ready it was to be pushed. Back at the garage, the numbers confirmed what Hamilton felt on track. His stability on corner entry, especially under medium fuel load, was closer to what he used to experience at Mercedes. That's not a small thing. That's the foundation of trust between a driver and a machine. And for the first time in a Ferrari, Hamilton had that. Meanwhile, Leclerc couldn't find the same rhythm. His side of the garage was quiet after the race. No major debrief, no public analysis, just a quiet departure, followed by an urgent flight to Maranello. Why? Because Charles knew something had changed. He wasn't the reference point anymore, not in the simulations, not in the setups, and not in the post-race meetings. What's more, insiders revealed that this floor was never meant for just the Austria weekend. It was a prototype, a signal of what Ferrari wants to build for 2026. Every lap that Hamilton ran in Austria fed directly into Ferrari's future. The car's behavior, the way it handled weight transfer, the way it loaded the rear axle under acceleration, everything was logged and sent to the 2026 simulation rig. That means Hamilton isn't just influencing next race upgrades. He's shaping Ferrari's DNA for the next generation, and Ferrari isn't denying it. They're letting it happen. That's what makes Silverstone so important. It wasn't just another Grand Prix. It was the first real test of this new Ferrari-Hamilton alignment, and Hamilton didn't treat it like just another home race. He arrived with purpose. His engineers had already requested new simulations on floor stiffness, something more common in Mercedes-style setups. The floor itself was slightly adjusted for Silverstone, with better control under lateral load, and as soon as practice started, it was clear who the SF25 was listening to. Leclerc, on the other hand, continued to struggle. His feedback sessions grew more tense. He reportedly demanded explanations from team principal Fred Vassar on why Austria's upgrade direction wasn't mirrored across both cars. But the answer he got was data. No politics, no promises, just telemetry, and in F1, data speaks louder than any team meeting. That's why Leclerc's frustration isn't just about performance. It's about position. He built his Ferrari identity around being the driver the car was made for. Now, that's shifting, and it's shifting fast. The numbers from Austria proved it. Hamilton had better mid-corner rotation. His car responded more cleanly under DRS. Even his ride height management under full throttle was more balanced than Charles's. These aren't small margins. They point to a car that is slowly but surely being tuned away from one philosophy and toward another, from Leclerc's precise, front-loaded style to Hamilton's smoother, more balanced flow. That's not just a driving difference. It's a control difference, and it's shaking Ferrari's internal structure. Leclerc's silence after Austria wasn't just personal frustration. It was political isolation. He knew what that flaw meant, and what's worse, he knew it was working for Hamilton. That's why his urgent flight to Ferrari's HQ wasn't about recovery. It was about survival. He met with lead simulation engineers in a closed-door session, demanding answers. But answers were few, because inside Ferrari, the shift has already begun. Development updates are now increasingly tailored to Hamilton's feedback. Over 3 straight weekends, his setup data has taken priority in overnight tweaks for Leclerc. That's not just worrying. That's a red line. The question now is, how far will this go? Because Ferrari says it's balancing development between 2025 performance and 2026 evolution. But let's be honest, there's no balance. There's only one direction, and it's following Hamilton. Silverstone showed that. Behind the scenes, Ferrari approved new parts for Hamilton's car with less debate, faster execution. Meanwhile, Charles's requests were met with slower responses and internal reviews. It's not sabotage. It's redirection, and in Formula 1, that's enough to tilt the entire garage. What Hamilton is doing is reshaping Ferrari without needing to say much at all. His performance, his calm confidence, his data, all of it is making the team listen. Even the engineers who once questioned his input are now taking notes, because his driving is confirming what their simulations predicted. And that kind of confirmation is rare. It's not just about winning races. It's about building a foundation Ferrari wants to build its 2026 title push on. And Lewis Hamilton is becoming that foundation. Every piece of information from Silverstone pointed to this. During Friday practice, Hamilton's long-run pace showed less degradation. His corner exits were tighter, cleaner. His radio calls were brief and strategic, not emotional, but calculated. He was steering the entire race weekend like a project manager in a lab. At his performance in qualifying, it wasn't pole position, but it was efficient, clean, decisive. That's how you shift a team's belief, not with big headlines, but with undeniable results. Even Leclerc's side of the garage had to acknowledge it. Reports surfaced that his engineers started testing some of Hamilton's setup parameters, just to compare data. That's not collaboration, that's an identity crisis. Because when one side starts borrowing from the other, it means they've lost direction. And at Ferrari, where politics are as fierce as the racing, losing direction can mean losing your seat. What's happening now is not just a battle for race results. It's a battle for narrative, for who Ferrari wants to be in 2026, and Hamilton, by staying calm and focusing on the numbers, is winning that battle. Every weekend, he stays consistent. Every time he extracts performance from a new part, he makes his case stronger. He doesn't need to shout it. The car is doing it for him. This is why Silverstone was so revealing, not just because it's Hamilton's home race, but because it confirms something that's been building since the start of the season. Ferrari is no longer just Charles's team. It's becoming Hamilton's lab, and every upgrade they test now is a vote for who they believe in. And right now, the votes are stacking on Hamilton's side. Leclerc knows it. That's why he's not smiling as much. That's why he's more private in his post-race behavior. Because this isn't about just beating Max Verstappen anymore. This is about holding onto his place inside Ferrari. And as the SF25 continues to evolve, Charles might find himself in a car that no longer listens to him. A car that no longer dances the way he wants it to. And in Formula 1, that's the beginning of the end. Silverstone was the stage, but the real drama is unfolding in the simulation rooms, in the overnight meetings, in the setups no one sees. Asterisk.